First of all, some matters of housekeeping. If the fire alarm bell does ring, it's not a practice. Please go out the doors as quickly as possible that you came in. Please switch your mobile devices to silent. The proceedings are being recorded anyway. Speakers will have 3 minutes. After that you'll hear a tone and you'll be asked to wind up really quick, please. It's the only opportunity for the public to speak to those people that are registered to speak. So please, if you could not interrupt the rest of the debate, and I'm sure you're not going to, but please, no clapping, cheering, booing, hissing or whatever, whether you like what you hear. During the debate, you'll see officers talking. It looks like we're being rude on the top table, talking while you're talking. We're not. We're trying to find the answers to the points that you're making, so that we can give you the answers when you're finished. So if you see that, it's not that bad. For members' performance, 84% of majors are being dealt with on time, and 5% of majors determined on appeal, and there's 5 major appeals pending. So slightly higher than last time, but nothing to be seriously worried about at the moment. Right, the minutes of the previous planning meeting, 10th of June, is it your wish that we sign them as a correct record, but with one alteration, which was emailed from you to me anyway. Do you want to tell members what it is?
It was,
page 7.
It's on
page 7.
Yeah. It was application DA250-0177 Galvatop, which was obviously refused.
But it says, it's a typo, it says it was approved, but it wasn't approved. So with that modification, which was nicely pointed out by one of our new members, are you happy that that is a true and correct record? Agreed?
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you. Right, apologies for absence.
Apologies received from councillors Diana Osborne and Clark Chen.
And Nigel Carr. Yeah, there's a third one. Any other apologies? No. Declarations of members' interests. First of all, disclosable interests. Any? No. Party whipping arrangements?
No.
So members of the public, political parties don't get together to decide planning applications beforehand. Everybody listens to an application and votes accordingly. Yes, sorry.
Can I just declare an interest in the sense that I know the applicant on the 0228 and 06265 Crick, Mr. Howard,
Okay.
previous councillor.
Well, I think we all do.
Whether we all have to declare that
Yeah.
or not, there's certainly as a previous councillor, I'm sure that's
A previous councillor that was on this. Yeah, that's fine. Yes.
And I've got an application which is quite well.
Yeah, we should talk about that in 2 seconds. Right, the next item is to announce any applications withdrawn or determined under delegated powers. You will note on the door that there were 2 determined under delegated powers. Well, I'm afraid we can only delegate one of them because the other one is a council as a member of this committee, so it has to be determined by this committee. It can't be delegated. So don't listen to what you see on the door. But the application in Brixworth 0454 is a delegated approval. And the other application at Wheaton, which is the last application on, is back on the committee again. Okay? Due to the interest in the big application tonight, we've now got the application in Badby Road West as the first application. So, gentlemen, over to you.
Thank you.
This application, reference DA 2015-0187, is for an outline application for the erection of 130 dwellings on part of the Northampton College site, which is off Badbury Road West. It's an outline application, and we're only here to determine the means of access. So one of the other pictures that you will see shows an illustrative layout, which is the details of which aren't for the part of the meeting tonight. The proposed is considered to be generally in conformity with the West Northamptonshire Joint Course Strategy and also with the Daventry District Local Plan. With regard to the National Planning Policy Framework, there is a conformity with that document, with the exception of the loss of playing pitches. The Council have been working with Daventry Grange FC and SLM, who manage the Council's leisure facilities, to provide regarding the possible provision of alternative pitches for Daventry Grange FC. If this application is approved, it will assist in the provision of a new replacement college building, the application for which has recently been received, and you'll find that is on the north eastern corner of the application site. The red line which you see on the plan in front of you is this application site. The adjoining site, the replacement college building, thank you, is being shown, indicated by the arrow. We have objections remaining from Sport England and from the Environment Agency. Sport England are objecting to the loss of playing fields, and their advice is that if the Daventry District Council are minded to grant planning permission, then the application should be referred to the National Planning Casework Unit. The effect of that is that the decision, there is a possibility that the decision could then be made by the Secretary of State, depending on the advice that the National Planning Casework Unit give him. Similarly, we still have objections from the Environment Agency. There again, the application should be referred to the National Planning Casework Unit. Their reasons for objections are the inadequate flood risk from the surface water generated from this development, and also the foul drainage arrangements which would need to go to Wilton Water Recycling Centre, which doesn't have an adequate capacity at the moment. Both these aspects could result in unreasonable levels of pollution. As most people will know, there has been a lot of objection from users of the existing playing fields, and as I said, this has been the subject of discussions between others within the council and the football club. There are no other objections from the local highway authority. The County Council Highway Authority is attempting to come to an arrangement whereby the applicants pay an amount of money towards the Daventry District, Daventry Development Link Road, which has recently been approved. In addition to that, the County Council have negotiated for further road improvements at the junction of Western Avenue and London Road, adjacent to the shell filling station that would provide facilities, improved facilities for both pedestrians and traffic in that local area. As part of the negotiations with regard to this application, the County Council have requested contributions to primary education, fire and rescue, fire hydrants, and are encouraging the installation of super-fast broadband. As part of the recommendation, which contains a list of many conditions, there is a list of items which it is intended would be within a legal agreement between the applicants and Daventry District Council.
Okay. Right, from one Richard to another Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to expand a little bit on some of the open space issues that Mr. Lambert has picked up in his presentation. Firstly, turning to the objections from Sport England, as it points out in the report, Sport England will oppose a loss of playing field unless 5 exceptions apply. And in their view, none of those exceptions apply in this particular case. We understand where Sport England are coming from, and we liaised with Sport England to see if the grounds of their objection can be addressed. They've indicated that they can't be currently, and therefore they maintain their objection. One area of concern that they have is that we don't currently have an up-to-date playing pitch strategy. We recognise that, and we are currently addressing that. We've commissioned some work to look at open spaces in the ground, and that work is currently underway, but won't be completed because it's such a complex piece of work until September 2016. However, we're faced with an application now that we need to determine in the current context, and therefore we've reviewed the database that was used for the 2009 piece of work to look at open space within both the ward and town, within the various typologies that the 2009 study used, and that's all set out in Table 2 on pages 52 and 53 of the report. So we've looked at the level of provision, say in the ward and the town, and we've assessed it against the requirements in the 2009 strategy. And those requirements that are expressed at a certain amount of hectares per 1,000 population. So to apply that approach to the anticipated population levels if this application were to be allowed. And clearly, from Sport England's perspective, outdoor sports is the main area of their concern. And if the proposal before you tonight were to be allowed, it would result in a shortfall within the ward of 3.25 hectares. So clearly there is a policy conflict there, which Mr. Lambert refers to, against policy R2 of the core strategy. But as with all planning decisions, that has to be weighed in balance with other policies which support the application. So that's all dealt with in this report. Turning to the football club, clearly if the application were to be allowed, some of their activities will be displaced. As Mr. Lambert mentioned, the council and SLM sought to identify solutions with the club. Those discussions have established that the space requirement for the older groups could be met at existing sports facilities at the headlands, and that would also facilitate access to a nearby clubhouse, which the club already uses. SLM, whose role is to promote sporting activity, have come forward with this package, working with ourselves. They're happy to mark out pitches at the headlands and to mow the grass to pitch standards. Clearly, it currently isn't, it's just an amenity standard, but obviously it would be raised to a pitch standard if that proposal went ahead. That package has been put to the club, as I understand it. No response has yet been received to that package. In terms of the younger age groups, the proposal, which I think Mr. Lambert refers to, the separate application for the college and some pitches to the eastern side of the site, which is currently with us. That includes provision for 3 pitches for the younger age group. So a combination of the provision on that side and at the headlands would meet the requirements of the football club. Chairman, that's all I was going to say.
Councillor?
Mr Chairman, thank you. I'd just like to draw the committee's attention to the late representations because I know there have been received reports.
Thank you. We have 3 speakers. Mr Bedford, who's against it, also representing that group. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr Chair. We'd like to list key points. The local community have used the playing fields for over 30 years. The applicants have described the site as private land, ignoring the fact that the local community have used the site without hindrance for all this time, and were actively encouraged to do so by the original headmaster when the site was a comprehensive school. It's an attempt to make the site appear to be less important to the surrounding area, which is not the case. Drayton Grange Football Club have nowhere to go, and the new playing field proposed as part of this application will not meet all of their needs. Splitting the club across different sites will not be feasible. Alternative locations that have been investigated would result in a significant increase in costs for the club and therefore the players and their parents. The applicants have sought to downplay the use of the site in order to support their case that it is acceptable to lose nearly 70% of the college grounds to development, and we disagree. The local community have not been listened to. Indeed, the scheme has barely changed between the hurried consultation exercise and the actual application that's been submitted. Detailed comments have been made inviting the applicants to consider alternatives that might help to meet the needs of the local community and the football club, and these have been ignored by the applicants. We fail to see the need or justification for development of this scale covering such a wide area of the site. It seems to have been prepared on the basis of maximum profit and not minimising land take, particularly taking into account the fact that the applicants are receiving almost 75% of the funding for the new college from SEMLEP and DDC. The applicant's open space assessment is based upon an out-of-date survey and flawed to the extent where it considers the open space requirements from 2009 and not 2015 and beyond. Allowing the development on this basis would conflict with the policies within the development plan, the requirements of the National Plan for Policy Guidance and the conclusions of Daventry District Council Open Space Assessment. The Council have updated the assessment of open space requirements to take into account more recent losses of open space, such as Fords, which demonstrates that there is the deficit of outdoor sports provision within the Drayton Ward and Daventry as a whole. Whilst the officer's report indicates there is balance between the benefits of the scheme and the negatives, the application itself has failed to address the policy requirements to justify the loss of open space. National policy planning framework is clear when it states there is a requirement for open space to be protected and only develop where there has been an up-to-date assessment of needs and where equivalent or better provision in terms of quantity and quality in a suitable location can be provided. The officer has concluded that there is a good level of conformity with the NPPF within this application, and that is undoubtedly the case where the provision of new housing is concerned. However, there is no conformity in regard to the loss of open space, and that's just simply not good enough. Really want to stress the College Grounds Action Group are not against the development of the new college. In fact, we would welcome the investment in the future for our young people, but it should not mean that Northampton College should be given a free pass to take 70% of the community facility away when the local community and sell it for maximum profit. We therefore respectfully request that the committee members defer a judgment on this application and review it alongside the college submission so these issues can be explored in more detail and a solution can be found that suits all parties.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Gain, Town Council.
Yes. Daventry Town Council. Firstly, Daventry Town Council would like to express their disappointment for the lack of public engagement by the College and the District Council in relation to the proposals and source of funding for this project. A considerable amount of green space is being developed in return for a new college, and the residents of the town want to be assured that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. As no reassurance of the benefits have been forthcoming, the Town Council are unable to submit definitive support or objection to the proposal. The Town Council does, however, want to draw the planner's attention to various issues that may arise through the development of this site and ask that measures be put in place to mitigate those issues, and request that the following is considered for inclusion in heads of terms compliant with CIL Regulations 122 tests. That the District Council seek a condition requiring the completion of the new college building prior to 50 dwellings being occupied, that the DDC require the losses of the use of the football pitches to be mitigated by offering Drayton Football Club alternative sports facilities at no extra cost to the club, that the DDC provide within S106 agreement availabilities of monies to ensure excellent education facilities are available to all age groups. That the DDC provide within S106 agreement availability of monies for provision of nursery facilities in this area of the town. That the properties be a mix of shared ownership units, bungalows and affordable families' homes. That all properties adjoining the boundaries of any existing developments comply with planning guidelines that ensure proposals will not result in an unacceptable degree of overlooking, loss of natural light or overbearing effect on neighbouring dwellings. That the ancient hedgerow to be retained as it makes a significant contribution to the visual community of the area and protects and promotes wildlife. That a flood risk assessment, flood consequence, must be carried out together with proposals to manage and maintain an approved sustainable flood defence system. That consideration be given to resiting the children's play area and youth shelter to adjoin existing open space, as this will benefit the wider community. That consideration be given for safer routes and crossings for pedestrians, especially the junction of Badbury Road West and Western Avenue. That consideration is given to crime prevention and public safety by providing monies for the provision of CCTV cameras linked to the town centre system within the subway and at the entrance to the college. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the third speaker is Mrs. Brennan Barrett, either principal or vice principal. I hope I've got your right title. Okay. You have 3 minutes now.
Thank you. First of all, Commissioner, thank you for allowing us to address you. Northampton College has invested and managed the Daventry campus for 11 years at some cost to the corporation. We work in collaboration with Longton College, sharing the curriculum. Currently, approximately 420 students attend the campus. Unfortunately, the current position is not sustainable. Severe funding cuts to the further education sector means that all provision has to be viable. There is no room for cross-subsidy, which is what we have been doing over the last 10 years. Current provision is loss-making and continued reduction in students, about 15% a year, makes the situation increasingly costly. Current facilities are poor quality and not fit for purpose. They're also very expensive to run. The existing buildings have been classified as condition category C, meaning that considerable investment will be required in the short to medium term. Even if the college was to invest in the existing buildings, they would still be too large and expensive to run unless you demolish half of them, and therefore we couldn't continue with the college. The existing facilities are dated and inflexible and do not allow for new learning. Considerable maintenance liabilities will be eliminated through the preferred option, which is to build a new college. As a corporation, our choices were to close the campus and sell the whole site, or support the community by working with DDC and SEMLEP to build a new college on the site. We chose the latter. We have secured £9.4 million of investment to build a new state-of-the-art college for Daventry. A further receipt is needed from the sale of part of the site as the funding package. Without the sale, we cannot build a college. We have submitted the plans to build a new college and expect the committee to consider this at their September meeting. So we are hoping to have that at the September meeting for our new college. The plans include 2 football pitches and changing rooms, and formal advice has been sought from the planners and incorporated into the scheme, particularly low density of housing, retaining of public open space, second entrance to reduce pressure on Badbury Road West. We are committed and supporting a vocational provision in Daventry for over 11 years. We have a situation in Daventry where 500 primary school students leave the area to go to school elsewhere. We know that many of our students go to Warwickshire College, and we also know that many of our students are failing in the schools. Our aim is to support the education of the young people that come to the college and to make a difference. We need high quality vocational education in Daventry, and it's crucial to address the skills level within the population, give young people the chance to get higher paid jobs. We also want to develop apprenticeships with local companies. We need a skilled workforce to do that. Should the scheme fail, we'll have no option, unfortunately, but to close the college and dispose of the site.
Thank you very much. I have one councillor that's a local member that's not on this committee. Is there a member on this committee? Councillor Mack.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is the one that you've nailed it on the head, actually, that is the biggest concern to me. The fact that if this doesn't go ahead, you could withdraw from the site and sell the whole lot, which the local people feel that that is terrible, bearing in mind that this didn't belong to the college in the first place, and that if they did withdraw from the site, it should be given back to the people for their own use. So to sell it, and take all that profit is, terrible. I've spoken to many residents regarding this application, and I've listened to them and listed many of the concerns. Northampton College obviously have now submitted their application, and as we've heard, that should be heard by this committee in September. What I would like to bear in mind, the clause that I would have liked to have seen, that not even the college has got to be fully operational before the first house would be built, because that is the concern still of the people that actually this application may get passed, and the college, it hasn't been passed at planning, they could still decide to pull away. Drayton Grange Football Club, obviously they have used this field for many years, and it is relatively cheap for them to use this field. They cut the grass, they mark the pitches, they carve the goalposts. There have been discussions between the District Council and SLM for them to use other pitches, but there is absolutely no way can they afford to do that. That is going to be almost something like a 5,000 increase to that club, and that is not sustainable. They will not be able to carry on in their present format. And we have lost many of our sport areas over the years, and once it's gone, it can't be given back. But I feel that if this does go ahead, that provision for those sporting areas should be given with no increase in cost. I know other councils heavily subsidise their sporting pitches, so whether this could be done within a developer contribution, but I feel that if they've got to split their sporting activities across sites, there should be no extra cost. The other concern that I've got is the actual entrances to the college. Bagby Road West, already in the daytime, cars parked all along there. There is no extra provision for parking. And as we know, estates that have been built, they don't stick to the driveways. There's always extra cars parked around the streets. What I would say is that I wouldn't like to see any verges with grass on either, and there need to be cut-out bays where the cars can park. Social housing, well, all of the housing actually. I don't actually know. There are so many young people trying to move into 1 and 2 bedroom houses or flats that there seem to be, on this application, it was 2 1-bedroom flats and yet 10 4-bedroom houses. I know there's a lot of young people sofa surfing. There are no provision. So, I feel that the whole provision for the houses isn't meeting the needs of the people. The play area up in the top corner of that grass area, I believe that would be something that we could possibly add to the play area. But when you put a play area on a new estate, it becomes a play area for those children on that estate. So I would like to see some provision given so as the park to the right, to the left of that red line, that's where the new park should be, and then it will be shared by all the local people. Obviously, we know that the school is filled to capacity, and that is my other concern about children walking to school. You've spoken about road provision on Bagby Road West. I mean, there's lots of accidents on that junction. It is a terrible junction, and trying to watch the children already cross there to school, they take their life in their own hands some morning. But you've got to bear in mind that these children could be split up across all the schools in Daventry, because not every year group has got spaces. So if you've got 3 children, you may find that your 3 children are going to different schools around the town. Sometimes that's not even feasible to get them to the school on time, but they may be going out of the different entrance, so there may be need to have a pedestrian crossing on another junction. Hedgerow's already been mentioned. I feel that that hedgerow needs to be maintained, and there is extensive bollard in that hedgerow. The other thing that I would seek to find out about is upgrading the street lights, leaving the entrance and down to the left onto the Grange estate. Currently that's been plunged into darkness, and I would like some lighting to be considered along there. And I'd like to see alleyways kept to a minimum. You know, we have had an increase in burglaries and things, and you know, they just run off in all different directions. Just another thing that I think we need to be very mindful of is where storage of bins and whether the bin wagons are accessible to all of these sites. And if there is a change in accommodation, and if we do go with more 1 and 2 bedroom flats, whether there would be a garden, because so many of these places are built without a garden. There's nowhere for them to hang their washing, there's no tumble dryers, room to put tumble dryers in. And there are so many other things that I will be speaking again throughout this debate. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Amy Howard.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak. I have looked at length at the application, and one of my concerns is the development has to be of quality and design to meet the latest eco standards. My other concern is the access of Western Avenue, Daventry Road Junction, and the new exit on Union Way. As a past student myself, who had to walk to college, I know just how dangerous the roads and junctions are. And should the committee be minded to approve the application, I would request most strongly that the traffic management on Daventry Road West, Germany Way and Western Avenue to be looked at as a committee. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, members. Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I'm seeking some clarification. I'm sure that one of you at least will be able to clear this up for me. There are lots of comments made about this land should be given back to the people, this land is a public open space. I believe, from my reading of all the paperwork, that it's in private ownership. Can that be clarified for me, please?
Richard, can you...
Chair, as we understand it, the land is in private ownership. It is owned by the college.
Thank you. And the other problem that keeps being raised is this ought to be so tied to the proposed development of the college site that it should not be allowed to go ahead until that is complete. Now that doesn't seem to be very feasible to me because my understanding was that the funding of the college development was crucially dependent upon this going ahead. Can I have that clarified, please?
Chair, we've attempted to tie the two developments together by the use of a gramping condition. One or two versions of the gramping condition have been suggested. One has been mentioned tonight, whereby 50 houses be occupied before the college is started. The gramping condition that we've debated with the applicants is it's recommended condition number 7. No development should take place on the application site, that's the housing site, until such time as the building contract for the construction of the replacement college building has been signed and sealed to the satisfaction of the local planning authority. But that, of course, depends upon the replacement college building being approved by your committee or whoever. But that was seen as a mechanism whereby the two developments could be tied sufficiently together, but it would mean that the housing site could be disposed of once the contract for the construction of the replacement college had been signed and sealed. It does say to the satisfaction of the local planning authority, so it would need to be the contract would need to be vetted by the district council to ensure that the contract was, if you like, watertight.
Thank you for the clarification. The only other comment I wanted to make at this stage, Chairman, was I'm intrigued by Councillor Randall's shopping list, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect that this one site should be regarded as a source of funding for all of the town's needs.
Councillor Irving Swift next.
Yes, having listened to to all, it seems that no one wants a college to close. So everybody wants to see a college facility for Daventry, and I think that is essential. So the main issue is the England sport. And the pitch is 3.5 acres. Now, if I understand correctly, the college says they will have 2 pitches, or maybe 3. But my problem I have is that I would have loved to see the whole site in front of us developed as one. And the problem we have tonight is the housing proposed and the college in September will not be with a granting condition that you did. I think it will create a lot of uncertainty. So if the uncertainty is not resolved, I don't know yet how I will vote. But what I would like, if I had the reassurance that the people of Daventry, and I had some email in my inbox that Daventry has enough votes and so on. I promise you it's the same in all the villages. We have seen, we have taken a lot of building in our villages. So therefore, if we can clarify that Sport England will be happy with the solution we find, I would think the hurdle will be, and also have a condition for the environmental agency with the water, please. That is the 2 questions that I still have in my mind.
To clarify for you, Chairman, to clarify on that point, the fact that there is a Sport England objection and an Environment Agency objection means that if the committee is minded to agree this application tonight, before any decision is made, the matter will be referred to the, what's the name of that team?
That indicates work unit.
And then it will be for the Secretary of State to decide whether to allow the Council's decision to go ahead straight away, or whether the Secretary of State wishes to hold it in. So actually, if that remains to be Sport England and the Environment Agency position, then we have to go through that process. So that isn't anything, we've tried to resolve that, we haven't been able to. That's how that now will work.
So may we have the guarantee that if Sport England and the Environment Agency are not satisfied that we are going to give the people of Daventry a good facility, the application will be recalled or quashed. So in that case, because it's an outline planning application, we propose that we go ahead with a proviso that Sport England and the environmental agency.
Yeah, to clarify, that is how it will work, is that when it will be for the Secretary of State to decide whether we can go ahead with our decision or whether he wishes to take the decision. So it's while those objections remain, that's the process. So it's not for us to satisfy Sport England now.
There is a system whereby if these 2 particular groups object, there is a system that the Secretary of State can call it in, should he so wish. He may not call it in, and he may allow. That's should this council approve it. He may allow it to go ahead.
There was a similar situation. That's right. There was a similar situation a few years ago at Buckton Fields when there was a standing objection from the Highways Agency. So that's how that works.
Any indication of the timescale for that?
We won't know until we refer it to.
Thank you.
Did you make a proposal or not, Councillor?
Well, now I'm not so sure.
Okay.
With what you say is not exactly what I envisage. So I will leave some
Okay, that's fair
to
enough.
discuss a bit. I'm still not very clear about the sport facility, and especially that we want everybody to do a lot of sport. I know you have the park in Daventry, and I wish we should have had resolved the matter of the football before that in front of us.
Neither
But
of those groups have resolved it with us. So the next system is the system that if the council approves it, it's up to the Secretary of State whether he wishes to call it in view of those two groups opposing it. Okay?
So through you, Chairman, what is important is that this planning authority makes a decision in time. So, we've got to a stage where we haven't been able to resolve those issues, and that's the proposition before you.
Okay.
thank you so much.
Councillor Paul next.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of comments to start with, and then I'd like to come back. When we referred to, or when our officer referred to the football pitch on the headlands, would that be referred to as the Spider Park, which is known locally as the Spider Park? I've got a nod from the officer to say yes. It would be interesting to know once I have taken on board that the grass will be mown back to football pitch standard. I believe it was a pitch before, and suitably marked out. Dare I say, there was no influence of cost to the football club. Having looked at the application, one matter concerns me, because if we take the Spider Park, the place that they sometimes use, Mayfield Park, which is on the Timkin estate. The Timkin estate is a horrendous estate when it comes to parking. It is no different to Middlemore. I note within the papers that, it has been suggested that 1.5 parking spaces would be the norm. And if there was a garage, that one of the parking spaces would be quantified as being that garage. Now, I would defy anybody to get a car into any of the garages on Timkin and or Walton, so Middlemore rather. So if that stands within the application, then I think within the conditions we have got to stipulate that a family car can physically get into the garage and you can open the door and you can get out. I take on board my colleague comments, and also one of the planning members' comments regarding Western Avenue, Fabry Road West and Yeomanry Way. It is a staggered junction. There are problems there. When I looked through the travel plan that was submitted, the answer will put something on Western Avenue junction with London Road, which is probably a mile away, which bears no resemblance whatsoever. The idea of coming out on the northern side, at the exit there, comment was made in their travel plan that there was a crossing to the north. Well, the crossing to the north is one between Staverton Road through an underpass and out the other side. There is a common activity which is not to use the underpass, and I would strongly suggest that anybody coming from that area do not use the underpass, they simply cross the road. If they cross the road, then there is no footpath between the road junction and the fire station. So, with respect to officers and everybody else and the highways, they are areas which need to be addressed in a really positive manner. Apart from that, Chairman, I'd like to come back to you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Councillor Batchman.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of queries really. Those two fields or that land to the left, could that not be developed into football pitches?
DDC owned.
Well,
It is already DBC owned open space, and having lived just here, on the corner of there for 20 years, I can tell you that it is regularly used informally.
no, but could it not become officially football pitches?
I think the reason it isn't is because there isn't a changing facility nearby.
But it strikes me that that use of that land in conjunction with the pitches that are proposed, that would provide an adequate response to the football club. And the second question, which I know this is indicative, could not that layout be changed in the master plan to allow another football pitch to be adjacent to the two that are already there? That was just something to pop out. Also on page 57 there's a list of affordable housing requirements, and I know we're indicative, but which list is the one that would be acceptable? The one that the developers propose, or the ones that we propose?
Chair, we're not looking to fix either at this stage because it's only an outline application.
I said that, I'm just interested in what carries more weight.
Well, we would be looking for moving towards the list that we put at the bottom. So that the top list is the one put forward by the applicant. We've identified for more smaller units, such as it is. So that's what we've been seeking to negotiate. But saying it is a matter for future negotiation decisions now. I think you're right, that's lower list of the one where.
And one last point, I don't know if you can go back to the ProMap slide. Keep going back. That one. The college there, which I presume is the beige building in the middle, seems to be a very big building, but the new one seems to be extremely small. How do we square that?
I think I can answer that. That was originally a school with about 1,200 pupils.
Yeah.
I think it's as big as it was because of its previous use.
Right, that's fine. Thank you. I'm not familiar with the site, so being just a rural boy, I don't know these things. Thank you.
If I can come in there, Chairman, it actually housed a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a big school, definitely. Councillor Eden,
Thank you, Chairman. Although I can understand the people who want the football pitches left there, and they have been there a long time. I know that my youngest son played football up there and used to go and watch him. But if you look at one of the things that the Northamptonshire Football Association has said, they've actually admitted that the club are private hires of the site, and that's potentially down to the goodwill of the college. Now that means that any time that you've been up there with the football pitches, the college could have said any time that, I'm sorry, you can't be on here anymore. So what they're doing now is basically what they could have done at any time over, what is it, the last 30 years? It's got to be that long at least. I'm coming down on the side of having the college. There's a good chance that a lot of these children that play football will want somewhere good to go and get a decent education. Now, this is one or the other. I don't know whether everybody seems to realise it. If you keep your football pitches, you don't get your college. And I would prefer to see the college that will work for hundreds of children than, I know it's a lot that play football, but there's still more children and it will last for more years. This new facility is going to be a working partnership with the Daventry UTC and Northern College, which will give those children a wide range of things that they can learn and take with them into a job which could last them for a lifetime. Football, okay, I've got a grandson that plays football professionally, but that won't take him into a lifetime. He's only got so many years and then he's got to find something else to do. In with this package, even though it was to do with the houses, there's a Daventry campus redevelopment, the education case. Part of that gives the funding of the project. The local growth funding that's made available by the South East Midlands Local Enterprise Partnership is providing 50% of the money, not anywhere near what they need. Okay, Daventry District's going to give some, but the rest of the money has got to come from the sale of this land for the houses. If you don't sell the land and you don't have the houses, you don't get the college. And what is even worse, one of the last parts of this education says, another condition of the LGF money is that the new college facilities need to be operational for September 2016. Now, if Sport England objected, and this has got to go before the Secretary of State, even if we say yes tonight, I can't see them getting it done by then. And then they're going to lose all that money, and Daventry is going to lose one of the education places it needs. We've been told time and time again that the education around Daventry needs to be a lot better. This can help it. You've been given the chance of one or two other football pitches. They're not perhaps what you want. They're not where you need them. But we used to walk up with my son when we went to football, and there was a lot of cars up there, so a lot of parents brought their children up there by car. You can do the same again. You've got to think about it and decide whether you want to have a football pitches for the next few years, or you want a college for lots of years for your children. And in that case, I'd like to propose that the officers take officers' advice.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Do you have to second it? Well, I don't know which of you two was first, but we'll put Councillor Paul. All right.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. If I can come back.
Do you want to reserve it for a bit later? I've got a couple more speakers.
Yes, okay,
that'll be fine. Councillor Patchett.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I've got a lot of things written down here, most things have been covered. But with regards to the flooding issue, I mean, I've been down there and I know that, you know, it does flood down there, but there's presumably an engineering solution to that at some point, which will come out in the fullness of time. The one thing that does concern me with a lot of these projects is that the college is telling us that it needs 130 houses on that site to make the college happen. This committee has can anybody shed a light on why it was 130? I mean, why not 100 or why not 150? I mean, we've no sight of a viability study whatsoever.
Shall I answer that, Richard?
I'm afraid it's a matter for the applicant. The application was submitted for 130 houses, and as I said, that was a matter for the applicant. They knew how many houses that they would need to raise the capital for the college.
Thank you. No, we were just taking that with.
Chairman, the numbers have been greatly reduced from the original.
Okay, thank you. So I carry on, Councillor Patchett. Do you want to say anything?
No, that's it, Chairman.
Okay. So I've got Councillor Irving Swift and Councillor Randall.
Yes. Councillor Frenchman said something about the field next to, and I just would like to see if Daventry land would be minded to have a couple of football pitch. On when we have the detailed planning application, could we have a safe road from the college to the field, so like that we have the facility, the changing facility with the college we could share. If that they would be minded, so like that everybody would be happy. And that would be
safe walking distance.
Sorry, safe.
It is safe walking distance from the college site to the hand.
That they have a safe path.
There's a number of pedestrian routes.
Good, thank you. Thank you so much.
Councillor Randall.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think that we've actually, heard right in the beginning that if the application for the houses isn't granted, then the college will sell the land. And that's what we're faced with, and that's what, that we've known all the way along. So really, the residents feel like they're almost held to ransom, because what choice have they got? So if it does get refused tonight, the college might sell that land, and actually we might get the whole lot developed in houses. And to me, it's just a shame. And education, I'm really concerned with education in this town. But you've got to be mindful that actually you don't know how the three different areas are going to work together. You don't know whether anybody may pull out at any time. And just because you have a new building doesn't necessarily mean that obviously the provision is going to meet the needs of the children. You don't know how that's going to work. There's lots of children leaving this town not because they didn't want to go to that college in its presence in the present building, but it's because the courses weren't available. So there's a huge amount of children leaving this town that would have been quite happy, to go to their local college. And if we are mindful to pass this application, I feel that actually we need to be doing a lot more to look at costing to help the Drayton Grange to carry on in their present capacity. And the bottom end of that playing field, I understand that did used to be used for football pitches many years ago. And with, I know that there aren't changing rooms. I don't know, I know mine that plays rugby. Some of them have a shower after, some of them don't bother, they just get straight in the car. So whether that will be a necessity or whether that would go some way to giving them another pitch, actually that we could do at a very reduced cost so it makes their expense no more. But to me, if they have got to move, if this application does get passed, I feel very strongly that they shouldn't have to pay any more contribution than what they're already paying.
Right.
Whilst I can't give any guarantees, we certainly could put the views of the planning committee to our contractor S&M to see if they can explore bringing that pitch into use.
Just coming back on that, it is cost. I mean, I know how much our pitches cost per hour from SLN, and it is about nearly £49 an hour. Other councils, they can go and rent a pitch. Northampton Borough, they subsidise their pitches on the racecourse for £5. So you could see the difference in costing. And I do not want this club to go under, because even if SLM agreed to that, if it's still going to be £48 or £49 an hour, that club is still going to fold.
I've got two more speakers down, and I think they're pretty well had a reasonable debate. I've got Councillor Barrett and Councillor Paul. If there's nobody else sticking their hand up now for something urgent to say that's different, we'll get to a vote after that. So Councillor Barrett first.
Actually, Councillor Barrett has just made a point far more eloquently than I could, so I won't say anything this time. Thank you.
That's fine. Councillor Paul, you can come back for your seconding bit now.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. We've got Tangled, which is a personal view, not a view of officers I hasten to add. We've got Tangled with the college. The biggest mistake that was made, on a personal point of view, was that the college application has gone in after the houses. Now, that's totally wrong. However, it's got mixed up. There needs to be, or there is a need for housing in Daventry. That will not go away for a number of years. If we look at this site, what we've got to look at is a quality site with clearly defined open areas. We don't want all the houses boxed in. I know that will come back to our officers later. As this is only an outline application, we've got to learn by our lessons of the Timken and the Middlemore estates. I absolutely commend Drayton Grange Football Club. I've supported my colleague Alan Hills with his sports awards, and when you see the response that the children give to the Drayton clubs, it's absolutely incredible, and it is a credit to all those volunteers that run the club. Over the years that I've been a councillor, I've never known this council to refuse help to anybody. So I feel sure that members would be minded in future to work with Drayton Grange Football Club to resolve the matter. I don't see as that is a hurdle. It's a hiccup at the moment, and when the government withdrew £30 million in December for a learning quarter in Daventry several years ago, we thought it was the end of the world. The Phoenix was going to fold, the community centre was going to fold, but since that time the district council has said, right, we'll work with you we'll forget the government and we'll get you there. Well, they're nearly there, and I feel sure that officers of this council and members of this council will work with Drayton Grange Football Club to get the best result for them. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, I said we were going to get to the vote now, but Councillor Frenchman's indicated that
If that could be turned into a pitch, could a section 106 cover a new clubhouse?
It would have to be on the next application, Chairman, surely.
No.
No.
No, it's within the red line, or either within or just beyond the red line. We are looking at trying to combine the two, anyway.
Not necessarily.
Well,
Not necessarily, it could be.
Not necessarily.
This would be when the next application.
through the chair.
Just ask you the question.
Okay. Right. If nobody has any more new points, I think we've had a pretty good debate.
So can I propose that's added as a condition if possible?
We will explore whether that can be added to this application or the...
Thank you very much.
So there's a proposition, the application be approved subject to the conditions that we were talking about earlier on the national planning casework unit and all of that. It's been seconded. All those in agreement, please show. Those against? 2. The application is approved by us, but subject to what we were talking about before. It can still be called in by the Secretary of State.
And also section 106 exploration.
And subject to that part as well. The application is approved. If you want to break for a few minutes while people that came along to listen to the Daventry application, if you want to go there, we'll have a 2-minute break.
How are you?
How about you? Where I'm Right, is everybody here now? Nobody's popped out. continue now. The next application is the first one. Wendy's still like that. Could you give Wendy a big shout? Because she's not around. I'd hate her to miss an application. Right, the application in Crick, which is the first one on the agenda, which is 0153.
Thanks, Chairman. This is an application to revise an existing planning approval. In other words, treated as a Section 73 application to incorporate changes to the approved scheme. Those changes, in summary, include an increase in height by 0.6 metres from 9 metres to 9.6. And a number of fenestrational changes, including the addition of 2 roof lights on the front elevation, and amendments to the rear projecting family room. Let's say, in planning terms, that the principle, indeed the detail of 2 drawings has been agreed on the site, on this particular site. And although there are changes which are the subject of this application, we consider those changes to be acceptable in planning terms, in terms of impacting residential community and the nearby heritage asset, and accordingly recommending the application be approved, Chairman.
Thank you, Aaron. Do we have a speaker? Mr. Ackerman is the agent.
I'm not going to say too much. I mean, generally speaking, this site was inherited, purchased by my client. Really, the nominal changes were just incorporating building regulations, things that we have to comply with. And purely the garages have not really been moved around the site. We're talking a foot, just to bring them up to boundaries, just for the sake of them being easy to build. But generally speaking, the footprint of the buildings, the 3-storey elements, the dormers, the window positions, generally all as approved previously. So I don't think I really need to say too much more than that.
Okay, thank you. Members. Oh, hang on, we have a local member.
Yes.
Well, she's indicated she wants to speak. We have 2 local members. Sir, you go first.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, you don't go first, madam. The member of the committee goes first.
Chair, thank you. I went round the site this morning, as a matter of fact, to have a look to see what everybody is talking about. I can't quite understand why this has come to us. They've already 3/4 or halfway at least built these properties. They're more or less as they were. They've got also little bits. They're both massive houses, by the look. And they don't seem to me to be overlooking much, but not much different. Not a lot different. Now, the local parish council have objected, mostly on the basis that the property is next door, effectively, to the graveyard, and overlooks the grave on Mr. Building, which it does, just about. It's up from it a little way, and in reality, I don't see that their objection is going to make any difference, because this place has already got planning permission, and they're building it now. That's pretty well all I've got to say about it.
Thank you. Now you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, I forgot to say very much.
I don't know the protocol.
No, the member of the
It's a treat for the members.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm afraid I have to disagree with my fellow ward councillor on this one. I have to say, first of all, before I make my comments, is that at the site entrance there's a huge sign that says to executive houses. The one thing Crick doesn't need is more executive houses. There are so many in the process of being built at the moment. We're not quite sure who's going to live in more. But nonetheless, that's where they are. The principle of development has been established, so there's little that we can actually challenge. But I have to say, I do agree with the parish council. I also went round the site. It hasn't reached the first floor level yet. But one thing is very clear, and that is that it doesn't really
respect the adjacent Grade 1 listed church. It is closer to the boundaries of the graveyard than any other building, and the buildings which are quite close to the church are in fact themselves listed and been there for 100, 200, 300 years. So what we're actually doing is building mock Georgian houses with now dormer windows which look straight into the churchyard. There's some comment in the officer's observations about the footpath. I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to mean, but certainly there will be overlooking, very close to the churchyard, and in fact everybody who goes for quiet reflection in the churchyard will actually see those dormer windows in the second floor. Why there isn't a second floor, of course, we don't know, except of course it's bigger and therefore more expensive to sell. However, I think that the roof height, even though it is only 0.6 of a metre, is actually quite significant in that context. It would be in many contexts, but I think in that context of the churchyard and of the other listed buildings there, Grade 1 listed church. We don't get many Grade 1 listed buildings. Grade 2, yes, but not Grade 1. So I do think that that is actually very important and should be taken into account. The other point that I'd like to make is about the garage. I'm very glad to see that there is a condition upon the use of garage. Two-storey garage, playroom, studio, whatever, with kitchen and bathroom. Yes, it needs a condition, but I would suggest that in fact the condition is actually amended so that it needs strengthened really, by actually saying not to be used as except for auxiliary accommodation. And the parish council is quite right about the access. It's right close to the co-op. It's on a crossroads, almost on the crossroads, and I do think we need to be very careful about what we actually put off the main road. But don't forget, we've actually got 200 houses now being built in Crick, and they're all coming onto the same road, looking for parking outside the co-op, and this is actually going to be very difficult. We can't do anything about the municipal development, but please can we reduce the height of the houses in the overlooking dormers in the second story, which seems to me to be unnecessary.
Thank you. Two different opinions. Yes, you'd like to take a comment?
Yeah, other than to add to the opening introduction, which is that the principle has been established, but also the detail that's been established and what members are being asked to consider is the changes, the detail. In our view, those changes are relatively minor. Nevertheless, they're subject to this application. Judging them on their planning merits, we judge them to be acceptable. With the changes, for example, on the front elevations are Sherwood. The approved dwelling is on the right-hand side, and the changes that are being proposed are partially illustrated on this particular plot on the left-hand side. There's a marginal increase in height by 0.6 metres, and the introduction of two additional roof lights on the roof, the front roof slope. And in addition, there's alterations to these of the front portico, porch. In our view, those changes are changes of detail. They don't go to the principle of development, and they should be approved too.
Thank you, Helen. Councillor Mixfest?
Yes, I know that our conservation officer make no comment, so I would say that we go with officer advice. I agree to what Councillor Lomax said, but unfortunately we have the principle of planning, and two executive homes had been approved. I remember, I think it went in front of committee, and we thought they were, well, I didn't think they were appropriate because they were more Georgian, but frankly, at that stage, I think we should go with officer advice, so I would propose that we go with officer advice.
Okay. Councillor Chapman. First of all, do you have a second then?
That'll be me.
You are second, right, but that's ideal.
But I wanted to make a comment in the presence of the agent. There is, on page 15, a note from the Environmental Health Officer saying that I consider the noise assessment to be required as a number of noise sources are present in close proximity. I want to make sure that he's aware that there is in the tower of St Margaret's Church a splendid ring of 8 bells, which we haven't finished paying for yet, but they are rung frequently and regularly. They are rung for Sunday services and also for a practice on certain Friday evenings. I asked to make sure that everybody's aware of that, because in my role as noise complaints coordinator for the Central Council of Church Bell Ringers, I get people ring up and say, I've just moved into a house next to a church and they ring the bells. What are you going to do about it? I won't tell you what I usually ask.
Councillor Robertson, did you want something?
No, I was only going to say that the interesting point that was made by Councillor Lomax are not going to make any difference to what they've already got planning permission for. So I think looking at the two now, I didn't realise that in fact they've already got permission to have 2 dorms. Yeah. Increasing it to 2 more. Frankly, it makes no difference.
Right. Got a proposition, the application be approved as per officer's advice, which has been seconded. All those in agreement, please show. Those against? 1. Okay, the application is approved. Next application is in Daventry 0155. I think we're nearly there.
For those members who've been on the Royal Planning Committee a little while, they should know this particular site. It's a lovely listed building, formerly a country house, converted to a monastery convent, where they made some quite delicious chocolate as well.
That is not a planning reason.
It's capable of being a consideration. Nonetheless, I mean, the convent closed, and subsequent applications that are set out in the report for conversion to a care home providing quite intensive care facilities. That application was accompanied. Can you just go to the detailed layout? So quite useful, this photograph, aerial photograph and drawing show the main listed building dwelling is at the bottom, the southern end of the site, and then there's subsequent with the courtyard to the rear. The application approved allowed for quite a large extension to the western side, so as so that's the principal listed building with outbuildings to the rear, the courtyard. The application was approved previously, created quite a large 2-storey extension to the side, to the western side, plus various alterations to the existing buildings, conversion of car parking, etc. At the time, members judged that to be acceptable and resolved to approve the application. Proposal also included the provision of 5 care units, effectively self-contained care units, comprised of 2 terraces. One on this side of the enclosed kitchen garden, and the other, I think, wrapping around this particular corner here. As you'll see in the report, the application that's before us tonight is an application to provide a 17-bed care facility, intensive care facility, which will comprise a 2-storey building, effectively cutting into the raised land here. It's been decided so as not to compete with the principal listed building, but also it's decided to effectively build over the area where the previous care units are concerned. My understanding is this facility has a national reputation, and this extension is seen very much as a part of plans to improve and extend facilities within the site. Those considerations in terms of employment, etc., need to be balanced against the concerns of impacting the heritage asset, which not only includes the principal listed building, but also the walled garden, which is this area here. Now that remains intact as a result of this particular proposal. Just go to the next elevation. So the building is a fairly low profile building that effectively sort of cut into the hillside to try and avoid competing with the existing modern extension, or indeed the principal listed building to the south. That said, you'll see in the report there are concerns from the Conservation Officer in terms of the impact on the heritage asset. Those concerns have amounted to effectively a conclusion that the proposal would result in harm to the designated heritage asset, albeit less than substantial. In those circumstances, the authority is required to set that against the planning balance with the benefits of the proposal. In our view, weighing up the concerns of the Conservation Officer, provision of this facility and its design would weigh in its favours, such as to outweigh the harm to the designated heritage asset. You'll also see in the report the suggestion that there should be a 106 agreement to effectively kill off the ability to implement the remainder of the extant permission in terms of the self-contained units referred to. Having looked at it more closely, our view is that the 106 agreement is not necessary. And the reasons for that is that this proposal effectively overlaps those two areas, such that the applicant, if this application were approved, could implement one or t'other, but not both. So in that view, if that's the case, if this application is implemented in itself, that would perform the function of the objective of the 106, so it's not necessary. So with that change to the recommendation, Chairman, we are minded to put the application before committee and recommend it be approved.
Thank you, Eamon. Next speaker, Smythe.
Chairman. Okay, my name is Martin Smythe. I'm the Operations Director at Daventry Park. Daventry Park, for those that don't know, is a specialist neurological care centre. We accommodate adults with acquired brain injury, progressive conditions such as Huntington's disease, and also we accommodate those people with complex care needs. Over 90% of the residents of Daventry Park are funded through the NHS. We're currently experiencing high demand for our services, particularly the complex care service, where we form part of the rehabilitation care pathway from the NHS Central England Rehabilitation Unit, which is based in Leamington. All of our beds, we've got 68 beds, are currently full, and we have a waiting list of people waiting to be admitted. This application seeks to increase capacity at Daventry Park in order to continue to meet this demand, the majority of which is from NHS commissioners in Northamptonshire. The proposed design of the new building has been carefully considered and is a high-quality facility that sits unobtrusively on site. In addition to the extra bed capacity, the development also includes a therapy and wellbeing centre. This will further enhance the facilities at Daventry Park for our residents and will ensure that we remain at the forefront of specialist care provision. As the report states, we already employ nearly 200 staff, the vast majority of whom live in Daventry District. This development will provide a further 40 permanent jobs for nurses, therapists, care and ancillary staff. In summary, we believe this development, which meets a real need, will reduce pressure on NHS hospital beds and secure continued and additional employment for people in the local area for many years to come. And I therefore urge members to approve the application.
Thank you. Right, members, Councillor Patchett will be, you'll be the only one, won't you?
I'm the only one here tonight, so
Yeah.
Chairman. I just note that it just says Drayton on the papers, but it's in fact in my ward, right at Woodford. Myself, my two ward colleagues. Sorry, Councillor Paul.
Is this Drayton ward?
Okay.
B.
So it finishes at the A45, but anyway.
We know where it is.
We know where it is.
Yes.
We always like to support rural businesses. The Parish Council of Badby is very happy to support this application, and so I have no problem at all in recommending we accept officers' advice.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Swift, are you seconded?
Yes.
Right, thank you. That's a nice simple one.
And I do not
Councillor
wish to
Chandler?
No, thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of comments, really. One is I never had the chocolate, but I did have eggs from the nuns. I note on page 27 that the proposal includes the provision of a hydrotherapy pool, and I welcome that, because until very recently, the only way you could get hydrotherapy in Northamptonshire was if you were a dog or a horse. That's it.
I heard it called a convent, and yet it used to be a nunnery. Not a convent, but I don't know the difference between a nunnery and a convent. It's the same. It is the same. Right, Councillor Paul, is it clear one?
Yeah, thank you. The Mother Superior insisted that it was a convent. However, lots of things went on there, as my colleague has said. They sold eggs with salmonella and chocolate. However, the present occupiers, the only way that I could describe it to anybody is it is par excellence. To say that it is a care home absolutely takes away the quality, not only in the building, but the quality of care. I would urge the manager that if any of the councillors wish to view the premise, then I would urge him to allow it, because it is absolutely second to none. Chairman, Councillor Eden and I went scrumping in the gardens many years ago with my wife, I hasten to add. The walled garden has been restored to absolute perfection, including the Victorian greenhouse. I just hope my colleagues approve the application.
Thank you. Councillor Randall, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just picking up from the Conservation Officer, just saying about, obviously she's picked up from the Georgian Group's comments about the authority to work with site owners to develop a management plan, to look at, so as we don't overdevelop that site any further. So just, I agree with those comments.
We have a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in agreement, please show.
Unanimous, Chair.
You've got a full house then, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I therefore extend the invitation to any members who do want to pay a visit? Thank you for speaking to me.
Yeah.
And Councillor Osborne, Mayor Osborne, did come and visit during the year of chairmanship.
Okay. Thank you. If anybody wants to see it, please contact. The reason I call him Martin, he used to be an officer of this council. Many of you won't know that because you're new council, but he was an officer of this council at the time. Thank you. Martin. We move on. John Drake. So the next application is in Brixworth and it's 0191.
Thank you, Chair. This site is probably been a big familiar to anyone who knows Brixworth. It's right at the crossroads in the centre of the region. The main reason it's come before the committee is because the proposed alterations to the building, the parish council say against the village design statements on it not happening. But against that, you'll see we've got the comments of the conservation officer who says, I've seen the less revised drawings and I'm happy now. I think when we show you the photograph of the building, you'll hopefully agree that it's not the prettiest looking extensions, and that the proposal will actually enhance the appearance of the building in our view. There we go. So you've got a sort of bit of a hodgepodge of stone and brick and modern doors and windows and a fence, obviously, at the first floor level, which is fairly unusual. And the idea is to visually improve the building. It does include render. I know the Parish Council admits the render. It's not to render the original stone property that you see there at the front of the site, but it's to render this extension that you see here, which you'll see is various bits of stone have been laid in various different ways, and then it's bricking, fill, etc. So I have to say, having considered it, looked at it myself, I think it's going to be a vision improvement really, and I don't agree with the Parish Council. So on that basis, we recommend it to the chair for the
Thank you, Keith. Councillor, local members, Councillor Barron.
Thank you, Chairman. It is an amended application to reopen a restaurant, as the officers have said. It's not been trading for some time. I certainly can't argue with the village hunger for such a development. Thank you. It's certainly the continuation of an established business within adapted presence, but we have got objections here, and I think I must briefly address those objections that have been put forward. I'll ask myself really, is it a sustainable development? Well, the three measures of the NPPF, I think, economically, without doubt, will bring jobs to Brixworth, and also custom for local food suppliers. And the social thread, the type of restaurant that the village, this fast expanding village, hasn't got, and its predecessor was very well frequented, so there's certainly going to be a social benefit as well for having it there. So 2 out of the 3 of those requirements are there already. It's just the environmental side, I think, where doubts may be. Visually, the present building, I think, is fragmented. As our conservation officer quite rightly points out, an old cottage on the right, a 1970s extension of contemporary style, was then contemporary, in the middle, with a flat roof and the triangular bit on the top, and rather dark, dingy carport to the left of it, all strung together one after the other. By today's standards, I think we'd call that probably visually discordant. It just doesn't hang together, certainly not in a conservation area. Now, some objections concern the windows and proposed rendering. Now, I think it's mostly decorative stone that is proposed to cover. I don't particularly like the proposed windows in style or size. They do fit with this sort of building. We're talking of a 1970s style building. And what's the alternative? To use wood? Yeah, maybe. Would you notice the difference? Probably not. And what if you put nice wooden casement, outward opening windows, like the rest of the cottages in the area? It'd be tacky. It'd be horrible, in my view. Completely out of place when you've got an angular roofed, flat roofed extension. Well, I think the windows they are designing are fitting with the age and style of the extension. It is a conservation area, but it doesn't mean to say everything's got to be reduced to a chocolate box. It means that things are carefully developed. And so I'll have to accept the windows as being appropriate for the style of building they'll be in. In fact, Brixworth Village Design Statement does back up my view. That's BE 14 policy. It says the style and material used for replacement windows should mirror that of, quote, the original building. In this case, it's a 1970s style building, and I think the proposed windows do mirror the style. So I think it's perfectly in accordance with the Village Design Statement. It's never been, this never has been a picture box converted stone cottage. It was built like it is, so I think any attempt to try and turn back the clock on this one would be doomed to failure. Rendering of the stone is another contentious matter. I'm a bit ambivalent as to the quality of the stone. I think it's probably decorative originally rather than functional. But it's going to be, it's just, not the old part is going to be left alone, we're told. It's just this 1970s extension that's going to be rendered. All the buildings opposite that you don't see on these photos are in fact rendered. They were probably originally stone cottages. They've got concrete or cement facing and it's rendered white. And thank you very much. You can see them on the right now. Thank you. That's it. And even data roads across the road, which is also rendered. So it's not going to be out of place. Although it does counter the Village Design Statement, which is only, of course, secondary legislation. But is that enough to overturn the presumption for development in NPPF? I think that what is proposed is less than substantial change, and so we should allow the development. I don't think there's enough on balance to overturn the NPPF presumptions towards development. The buildings, I think, as a result of this, will be tidied up. And I think our conservation officer would agree with that. It can't be said it detrimentally affects any specific part of the conservation area. It can never be made to look like a 16th century cottage, but that's not what it is. It's an 1970s extension, but it can be improved to better reflect the period it was built, and that's what I think this particular proposal does. They've done much to adapt their design. They've even disguised the flue as a chimney pot to allay worries about the effect on it, and the balustrade's been lowered and the porch has been widened. So I can see no overwhelming material plans or considerations against the proposal. And I don't particularly like the rendering, don't particularly like metal frame windows, but it's the nature of the old extension. So I've changed my mind from initial consideration a few days ago, and I would take the advice of our officers and propose we accept and approve this application.
Thank you. That was most entertaining. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you.
Do you have a second? Councillor Frenchman, do you wish to speak on it?
No, there's nothing more to say.
I'm sure nobody else wants to speak on it. We've got a proposal, the application be approved. All those in favour, please show.
They're not approved.
Well done, Councillor Barrett. Word. The next application is in Crick and it's 0228.
Thanks, Chairman. The site is previously developed land, quite an extensive history, lying on the A428 to the east of the Crick, formerly known as Deer Park Nurseries, or part of that complex. The application before committee is an application for 5 dwellings, and a previous refusal for 6. Proposal is for 5 detached properties, quite large, in the words of a member who spoke earlier, executive type houses, to effectively replace the existing buildings on site. Really the issues in terms of this application, the report goes into it, is a matter of principle. Is the principle of development on this site acceptable? Considering the issues of sustainable development on the 3 strands, social, economic and environmental. In our view, the proposals conflict with existing planning policy on the basis that it's outside the confines of the village, is not in a sustainable location, and would conflict with the development plan. And there are no exceptional circumstances set out in policy R1 that would be met to warrant approving the application. And accordingly, I recommend the application be refused, Chairman, for the reasons set out.
Thank you. We have one speaker, Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, we have owned this site since about 2004. We had it for commercial use and it finished commercial use in about 2010. It has had a checkered history. It's had planning permission for residential conversion on the site already, so the principles of residential have already been granted by this authority, and that was in 2003. Page 81 of your packet shows that 2003-0302. So we did get, there was already residential use on this. We applied for planning permission once the site was accepted as brownfield and it was not being reused in 2013. About a year or so later, we did get a refusal for 6 units. I think it took that long because the authority, the officers and us were really trying to work out the best solution for this redundant brownfield site. Through that time, highways were consulted because it is a bit out of the village and no one can deny that. The footpath is about 200 yards towards Crick. We confirmed we would extend that footpath, the adopted footpath, right up to our site. There are 2 bus stops just there as well, outside of our site, so from a sustainability perspective, there are bus routes right outside. The county asked us to also put in a couple of bus shelters, because at the moment they are bus stops. From an accessibility perspective, St Margaret's, the estate that is on the other side of Crick, which has got permission for quite a lot of houses, I actually actually measured the distance between that access and the school and our access and the school. The access from St Margaret's is about 0.65 of a mile to the school, which obviously St Margaret's has been deemed as a sustainable location. Our access is about 0.64. So we're actually closer than some of the housing stock that's already in Creek. As we've said, this is a brownfield site. The NPPF and government policy do look to reuse these sites. This site was marketed as well. We know the hoops that the authority would want us to jump through. It was marketed by Hamptons and Harrison, no takers. We then came to the authority in 2013 to try to negotiate what was the best solution for it. Looking also at the recommendation from the parish council, it says it's inappropriate design which is not in keeping with the surrounding area. Unfortunately, our neighbour one side is a mock Georgian house, so the other side is a 1980s red brick mock farmhouse. There's not a lot to go through. Is that my time? Sorry, I'll be quick.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Reduction in traffic, we've got 40,000 square feet and we're looking for to replace that with 12,000 square feet. So the traffic is massively reduced. We've got 40 or 50 lorry movements in and out of there. And I think if the site was working, we'd have a lot more complaints. It'd be a bit like the Knights of Old. Thank you, Chairman. That's my time. I've got another application, so I get another 3 minutes.
You do. Right, local member? Well, we have two, but one on the committee.
Chairman, I've looked at this site and tried to pass it about every day for the past 25 years. To describe it as being outside the confines of the village is an understatement. It's way outside the confines of the village. It's even outside the confines of the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit that's recently been introduced on the A428. It's on a dangerous bend. It's just about the worst possible place you could build a new housing estate. And with that in mind, I defer to my fellow councillor in the area.
Did you wish to speak, Councillor?
What can I say, Chairman?
Not much.
Not much.
No.
I mean, there's total absence of connectivity, as my colleague has said. It's in open countryside, and quite frankly, those, okay, they're only indicative, but those in open countryside, please reject the application.
Thank you. No question. If you don't want to speak, I need a proposal. Councillor Frenchman.
I should propose that we accept officer's advice.
A second. Right. All those in favour of that proposal, please show. Those against? Okay. There's 11. Is that a full one? Okay. The application is refused. Next one is Martin. And I find it. Right, the next one is the road, the comment for the County Council, Mark Moseston.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, hopefully members have now dealt with the application for the SUE, so this doesn't come as too much of a shock to you. The line of the road was pretty well set in the SUE, and this is now the detailed planning application that the County Council have made to build the road. As you'll see, we're just a consultee in this case, so we're not determining this application. Having said that, there has been some feedback in relation from other consultees, and part of the recommendation at the end says, and we also ask you to take into account comments from the Bolton and Overston Parish Council. Just to say, basically, obviously, it has to facilitate a Bolton bypass, for want of a better word. It also has to facilitate access into the new SUE area, which goes off the, initially goes off the T-junction here. It's behind misbehaving now. I give it up. It is so sensitive that it
because people keep banging it on me.
It goes on the T junction there. And obviously for a later phase, because there's now, as you probably recall, there was a northern extension to the SUE. So the second access point would be off there. Obviously there's lots of concerns from local residents who are going to be quite affected by this in terms of in this area here where there's this tight pinch point where they don't really have any choice about going through that gap. If you're familiar with the area, you'll know there's industrial development on that side and then there's housing on that side, and there really is, a bit like there was with the Crick bypass in the old days of Midland Meat Crackers, there's only a very tight, narrow gap to get it through, and so it's got to go through there. There are proposals to do blending and noise attenuation on these embankments here to try and minimise the noise impact on the residents. There's also a similar situation with these properties on Oveston Lane here. Now, as part of the proposal, they obviously need to maintain the access down to Sidewell and Oveston and down to Billing Lane. But at the same time, the road will cut the avenue at Oveston Lane, and they will both, those parts of those roads will both become dead ends. So there's going to be a turning head there for people just to drive along from this new road and turn and go back out if they wish. And Oveston Lane is just going to be another dead end road in that sense. It doesn't mean anyone to go down there. The other issue that I know has been raised by Malton Parish Council, and obviously as I say, they have an opportunity to feedback their comments directly as well to county, is the fact that by moving this roundabout from the current arrangement where you go into Malton, they're smoothing out the curve in the roads to get onto the Everston Road, and they're just a bit concerned that that will lead to increased vehicle speeds because it's quite traffic calm now with it being quite a tight chicane that you have to go through. I think the view is, the county council are aware of that. They have made some slight modifications to alignment where they can to incorporate any comments, but pretty well that's how it's going to be, and they're also pretty happy that that's going to work in terms of highway safety. But obviously, Malton Parish Council get a chance to feedback. Obviously, Parkview is a dead end, which it is now. So we go on to Oveston Road, and then we go down, which is going to be different to the existing A43, which is going to be retained just as a local transport corridor. Again, you'll see in the live reps proposals to reduce the speed limit to 30 miles an hour and to introduce various traffic calming measures to act as a deterrent, just in case anybody thinks they'll see it's actually quicker to go down there and beat the dual carriageway. Also, one or two little slip roads have been retained, so residents can get out to the end of Thorpeville and they can go onto the roundabout down the bottom and get out that way, rather than having to go all the way back and go round. And that will effectively be cut off. There's a little cut through here as well that allows them to go either way. And the other little slip road is for buses to go off the bypass heading north and to turn back onto what's left of the avenue and go back down this transport corridor, as we said before. So those are the main features of it. And I have to say, it seems to tick all the boxes really. It's been quite well thought out and well discussed. But obviously they're keen to get on with it now because it unlocks the key to the land in the same way the Daventry Link Road that you spoke about a few weeks ago unlocks the key to development of Daventry. This unlocks the key to the development in the Northern SUE. So on that basis, we're recommending the comments go back. We have no objection, subject to slightly detailed comment made there, and also that we're welcome to take on board the comments of Oveston and Malton Parish Councils. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Keith. Councillor Prune.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm pleased to see that Mr. Thursfield or Keith has mentioned the Malton and Oveston Parish Council's concerns. They're not objections, they're concerns. I too share the concerns about the roundabout that Keith referred to earlier on, and the fact that they're taking out at the moment, if people know that area where there's a petrol station on that roundabout, it's like a bit like an S-bend as you come round off the roundabout. That does slow down the traffic significantly because that Overston Road is a very fast road, even though it's a residential road. We have major problems with people speeding down there. That's where the speed camera is usually placed when it comes to Malton, is down that road. So I would urge the county council to look at that junction again to see. I know Keith said that they've done things, they've altered the grades and whatever they can, but I think they should try and make that more of a bend to slow things down. I feel quite strongly about that should happen. I'm pleased that we're going to amend our advice to say that we take on board what the parish council is saying. Within that, what they're saying from the parish councils is that they feel that there should be some sort of way across that road other than a pelican crop or two crossing. I think they're proposing to put in a bridge or an underpass has been suggested. I don't particularly like underpasses myself, given that reference this evening to underpasses not being particularly brilliant, but a bridge may be a more suitable option. But I know they are more expensive than putting in a pelican or two crossing properly than putting a bridge up. So I'm happy with what's being proposed here. If we go down, see the triangle in the middle of the map there, the other road going up the sort of like the left-hand side of the triangle is Ashley Lane. They are proposing now to put in a ramp at the bottom of that to slow traffic down. So I do still think we should be doing some more with that roundabout. And that's all I'd like to say. And I'd say we recommend that we accept officer's advice.
You're proposing
that, yeah.
Thank you. Do you have a second? Thank you, Councillor Frenchman. You wish to say anything?
No, to endorse the comments. I've driven up and down there quite a lot, and I would agree with the comments about the roundabout. My only other concern is that any light, any crossing that's controlled by light, of course, slows up the traffic, and the point of the bypass is to speed up the traffic away from the residential area. So what's the point of slowing it down again with a pelican crossing? And I, as a driver, I do object to those sorts of planning issues because they're not thought through by the highways people. You want to keep the traffic flowing, and that would be stuffed full of a morning.
Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. Comment on a similar matter, but from the other perspective, as it were. There will be a necessity for people to get from one side of the dual carriageway to the other. Some of those people will be the Halton Lane, ladies perhaps pushing children in trams and buggies, people in wheelchairs, things of that nature. At the very least they need is something like a traffic control, such as a two-can crossing. Ideally, of course, there would be some accessible road crossing, but I know they're very expensive because you have to have a big spiral ramp in order to go over a bridge. And as we've already heard, it's not much fun going under an underpass, especially at night. So those are just comments, but I think I'm allowed to make those comments as an individual to the council.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Randall?
Yeah, only just one thing. If they're looking at putting a toucan crossing in, can they please make sure that it does make a bleepy noise? Because we've had a new one putting down the country part, it's silent. And so if you're, yes, it makes no bleep.
That's supposed to make a noise.
Yeah.
No, something don't.
No, so please can it have a noise?
You've got one on the hill coming down the station in London for those of you that drive by there, so you'll get the practice on that. But I've got a proposal that these comments, no objection to go to County Council. It's been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Okay, that will be the comment. Right, the next application is 0265 and also is in Crick.
Actually, in Crick, Chairman, it's okay.
I know, there's always some clever planning officer.
I will do that for him. The application is Deer Park, as I previously described, from the North Nursery with B2 uses the quite an extensive history. The application site sits to the east of Creek, just south of the A428. This current proposal is full application for conversion of the existing buildings to create 11 residential units. Again, having regard to existing development plan policy, which we attach quite significant weight because we have a 5-year land supply, we consider the proposal to conflict with the policy, but also having regard to the provisions of the MPP Act. We don't consider the proposal is in a sustainable location, nor does it address the 3 strands of sustainable development in terms of social, economic and environmental rules. And accordingly, we recommend the application be refused for reasons set out, Chairman.
Thank you, Aaron. The other speaker, Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillors, another go. I am obliged to Councillor for confirming the access and the bend out of that site is pretty bad. I think we all know that. What we have here is a site which is a commercial site. It has parking for 100 vehicles. It has an extent permission for 40,000 square feet of commercial use and 40 lorry movements per day if we don't put the Ghost Island in. If we put the Ghost Island in, the lorry movements are uncontrolled. They don't have a limit. So we're trying to reduce the danger on that bend by reducing the number of traffic movements, and that's been accepted by highways. I was also actually in the process of the last application thought about pushing the 40-mile-an-hour sign to the north of that bend, which would dramatically reduce the speed people are driving into it. So that was already on the cards. If we look, we've discussed it, if we look through the reasons for refusal, if we may, on page 119, refusal number 1, residential development will not normally be granted. Residential development on this site for conversion of redundant buildings has already been granted by this authority. It was granted in 2003. It is a brownfield site, as accepted by the officers, and it is redundant, as accepted by your officers. When assessing the sustainability, all I would say again is we are closer, our access is closer than St Margaret's access for 130 units. So I find that not really there. In the second paragraph down, it says it would result in an unsustainable form of development. Again, tested. We have bus stops outside. We are proposing to put in a small link to the existing footpath. Section 106. We've never been discussing Section 106. We fully understand. We know we would have to enter into Section 106 agreement of some sort. On number 3, the proposed development is situated within a special landscape area where new development is restricted on visual grounds. We've already got new development and this is conversion. So it's not appropriate due to design, scale and massing. The building's already there. It's not changing. We're just recladding it to make it residential. And number 4, the means of access as proposed is unacceptable. It's already an adopted access, councillors. To get the waste management plant that we got 10 years ago, we put in an adoptable access. It's already there in an extant permission. So we are trying to reduce this access from traffic. Our neighbours have actually written in a letter of support that hasn't been put in today, but our neighbours would rather see this as a scheme for homes rather than another waste management plant. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Councillor Robson.
Thank you, Chair. Basically, there's no difference between this and the previous one from a planning point of view. It's another argument for a housing development, a housing estate way outside the confines of the village, which I note is described as a village under limited development. I'm not quite sure what that means, really, but we're not supposed to be developing Crick too much. Although, if you count the number of building sites that are in Crick at the moment, it's unbelievable. Now, I'm afraid that the objections that I made before persist for this application, and I would propose right away that we agree advice and refuse this.
Do you have a second? Councillor, do you wish to speak at the moment?
No.
Okay, Councillor Lomax, do you wish to speak?
I have really nothing to add.
So the answer
You can
is no.
see it's a white elephant in the site, but it certainly has no sustainability. It's not in the areas of my view.
Thank you. Any other member wish to contribute? Councillor Irving-Swift, yes.
Yes, could I have clarification? The applicant saying that he has an application for a waste management plant. Is that right? And it was 2003. Is that now obsolete? Or can we have clarification? And that would be dealt with, I suppose, NCC. Northampton County Council.
He did have a waste management business there with Falkland Commission, yes.
But if it was 2003, has it been ever implemented or not? Or has he lost the right to implement the planning application? That is what I'm asking.
I'm sure an officer will tell you whether he's lost the right.
Well, the planning history is set out page 110. The application referred to was by the County Council. My understanding is that it has been implemented, so it would remain an extant permission, but I can clarify that. That's my understanding. As regards the issue of residential use of the site, you'll see the 2003 permissions related to the single flat. Again, my understanding of the history of the site, that flat was justified for its previous horticultural use that was on the site as being necessary for the operation of that particular site. And when that folded, we gave permission to remove the occupancy condition attached to that flat. Recollection, I think that flat's since been demolished. The building certainly was the flat that was due to remove from site.
I just want to chip in there, Chairman, because I was actually involved in that appeal. We didn't actually give permission to remove the condition, the inspector gave it on appeal. Well, I wasn't very happy about it, because the building hadn't really been there that long in the first place before the occupancy condition was asked to be removed. I really want us to query whether there really was a genuine need for that anyway, because the previous owner had split the site into, he got an actual dwelling on the inside. And in my opinion, he put together a questionable case about whether he could justify the flats as another dwelling on all parts of the holding. And that's why I wouldn't remove the condition, because I said, well, we can't actually guarantee it, but the inspector took the condition off on appeal. So that's how that got rid. But I say, it's gone now anyway, it's gone.
Thank you. Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I just wanted a bit of advice from officers really about, I thought I'd read somewhere that brownfield sites and things that are being brought back into use don't necessarily need planning permission. I was just wondering whether officers could give us a bit of advice about whether that would, obviously it doesn't apply, it wouldn't apply here because you would have considered that, but what the regulations are around that, because I'm a little bit confused as to whether, if we're just putting new cladding on things, isn't that bringing it just bringing it back into use?
There's a raft of provisions under the new general development order that allow various changes of uses, some subject to prior notification processes. Most common we have is agricultural buildings to residential. This clearly isn't an agricultural building. We've looked at the regulations, and our views that those repeating rights can't be exercised in respect to this particular site or these particular buildings. Hence the application.
Okay.
Should the general development order change at some point in time?
Yeah. I was just wondering, thanks for the clarification on that. The other thing I was just thinking, these are one-bedroom units, aren't they? I mean, are we looking at the issue of the housing needs for we allow sites in open countryside if it's a social housing type scheme, but obviously this isn't. But I'm just
again through you, Chairman. It's looking at it in the whole. There's no question this is a previously developed site. If you go and it's sustainable development as a whole, having regard to the MTPF, it sets out the three strands: social, economic, and environmental. Clearly, this is a previously developed site, but is it in a sustainable location? Socially, would this be able to integrate with the local community, for example? Environmentally, is it an acceptable form of development? So, public access to public transport or other modes of transport other than the private car These are all considerations that have to be weighed in the balance in terms of deciding whether it is a sustainable location. In our view, it fails those tests, and as a result, that's our recommendation.
Yeah, just on the brownfield question, I think perhaps what Councillor Cribbin was drawing at, there have been some political announcements leading up to the general election since
I just wonder where we were with that.
about the government trying to bring back, as you say, priority for building on brownfield sites. And what it seems they want us to do is some sort of assessment of all the brownfield land in our district. Not just us, but obviously all district councils, and put in place what they're almost calling local development orders that permit developments on such land. But obviously that's early days yet, that's just something that they're kind of talking about after the election, so I haven't really got into the details yet of how that's going to work. But yeah, they seem to have that back on the agenda as a good thing to do, because I think we've actually read somewhere, I don't know how true this is, but part of the threat is that if you haven't got enough, you'll go into special measures. That will limit the criteria for going into special measures. But I'd say, I don't know how true that was, or whether that was just an interpretation in an article that I read.
Thank you. Councillor Patchett.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was just looking at page 104, the second paragraph, where it says criteria A. It mentions the 11 one-bedroom apartments without any affordable housing, but I'd assume that you count one-bedroom apartments as being affordable housing anyway. Well, they would. I don't necessarily agree with this particular, the way this is set out, but I mean, I'm just thinking along the lines of perhaps a sheltered housing site which would be managed sort of as a potential future use. Should an application come forward in that respect? But I mean, we do need one-bedroom apartments, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Patchett. Councillor Robinson.
To clarify a point there, and correct me if I'm wrong, officers, but I believe to be considered to be affordable housing, it has to be under the control of an official affordable housing agency, i.e. housing association.
Just through you, Chairman, our typical affordable provision is 2/3 through a registered social landlord, and a third would be shared ownership. So that's the usual. And it's, the fact that it's all one bedrooms would not mean it's affordable, because that would have to be captured as the usual.
Depends on whether you agree with the term affordable, doesn't it?
Well, it's got a really defined term in all our accepted policies.
You've got teenage children, you might appreciate it.
Any more comments? If not, we have a proposal for the application completely vigorous, which has been seconded. All those, please show. Those against? I have to say, the application is refused. I have to say it will be an interesting appeal, that. I'd like to see that one.
Just to confirm, I think it's 10 ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Chair, most of them what I said about political announcements might have to be other material considerations that come forward that we have to take into account. But just because at the moment we've said what we said, we might be saying something different in the future.
I definitely think it's worth exploring other avenues.
Anyway, the application is refused at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nearly.
So I have sorry. Mr. Howard. Right, next application is in Barley, and it's 0303.
Thanks, Chairman. What I've been reading out was quite an appeal, some as you'll see in the planning history, part of our appeal scheme, including the facilities building. Facilities building is yet to be built, and the subject of several revisions, and this is the latest revision in that series. The proposal is largely the same location as under the appeal scheme, but it has increased in size in terms of height and width. But in our view, the proposal is acceptable in planning terms, albeit larger than the originally approved scheme under the latest revision, but is still judged to be acceptable according to the application to be approved. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wilbur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following the grant of planning permission in 2009, the marina off Barbie Lane was built in 2010-11, and all the berths are now provided and occupied. The facilities building, which was approved as part of the original permission, has not yet been built. However, as a result of the operation of the marina over the last 5 years, the operators now have a better picture of the range of facilities that the building needs to provide, the amount of floor space which is needed for each of those facilities, and the current requirements for access by the disabled. The proposal has been discussed with narrowboat owners, the Inland Waterways Association, and the Canal and Rivers Trust, and has resulted in the submission of the current proposal. This application also differs from the earlier one in that it proposes a 2-bedroom manager's flat within the roof space. This is needed to respond quickly to any emergencies which arise. A number of incidents have occurred to date in respect of health and safety and medical issues from narrowboat owners, many of whom are elderly or have mobility problems. It is also necessary to respond to alarms from attempted break-ins to boats, to deal with any pollution incidents from the compound diesel tanks, to respond to power failures and electrical double faults of boats, which can lead to fires or can trip security and fire alarm systems. Prior to the submission of the application, the applicants and myself attended a meeting of the Barking Parish Council to discuss the proposal and to invite comments on the details of the scheme. Following the original comments of the Parish Council on the application at the beginning of June, discussions were held with the case officer, which has led to a number of changes to the design to better reflect the historic aspects of canal side development along the Grand Union Canal. The officer's report recommends that the application be approved subject to the imposition of conditions, and I would request that you accept the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oberon. Again, it's Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome to the Councillor Robertson show. But basically, I went down there this morning to have a look around the place, and I don't know that this particular application has any real merit in the middle of open countryside, which is where it is. I was rather surprised at the amount of caravans and things that are dotted all over the place, not necessarily on this site, but nearby. And I can understand the parish council's objections, who feel, effectively, having read it, that it's too big. Now, I think, personally, that we should actually reject this application and allow them to come back with something more acceptable to the parish council. Other than that, there's nothing more to say.
Are you making a proposal or not?
Okay, I'll make that proposal a little bit earlier in the
So
day.
you have to make a proposal and give a planning reason why you want it refused. You can't say you want it come back.
No, I didn't think so. So I'm not making a proposal at this point. I'll let
Okay,
you
well, even think about it. Does Madam wish to say something?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair. I do on this occasion. Now, this is an application which doesn't accord at all with the original application. One of the problems, well, we've had problems with this site ever since it was passed on field. It was passed for non-residential birds. Since then, there have been residential birds, and I know because I knew the people who are on the boats and living there. So there's been a breach of the planning application in the first place. Then, when the appeal was allowed, it was allowed on the basis of everything being at a low level and very discreet in a very flat landscape. What we have here is something larger than was originally intended, and higher to 2.5 stories is it necessary. It will be obtrusive, and it is higher than was originally intended, and we do not think that it's acceptable in this life has been reduced, rethought. And I also draw attention to the fact that footpaths across the site, this has sometimes been very difficult to negotiate, so I think it must actually be in any conditions that is kept open for the public properly.
Thank you, Councillor Armand.
Sorry, councillors, can I just explain? I'm not able, because these are Word documents, so I can only show you the original plans in that small format, because these ones won't rotate. So unless you all want to do that, I'll stick with that. So that's the approved, and those are the, just to explain why I'm jumping around trying to find a picture.
Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you. Looking at the table on page 125, it appears to me that the increase in volume, I guess, is substantial from the original 2009 proposal, which I presume that is the one that we refused and was agreed at appeal. The appeal was won on the basis of the plans that were in front of the inspector at the time, and therefore I believe that we shouldn't allow them to alter that, and that the size and massing of this particular building in the open countryside is detrimental to the rural idyll. Conservation, is the canal on a conservation?
Close to this.
So it's in a conservation corridor. I think it's more fitting that if it was in an urban environment than a rural environment. It looks like a warehouse you'd see on the side of a canal in, say, Liverpool or Manchester or Bradford, as I've been up that way. So I'm leaning towards refusal of this on the grounds that it's too big, and that it's in the open countryside, and that it's detrimental to the rural environment. I haven't quite thought of the exact planning.
Putting words in your mouth, but you were saying canal conservation area.
I did say that before,
You said that before.
Yeah.
Could I just clarify, Chairman, the site isn't actually within...
No, I realise that. But it is in the open countryside.
Just bear in mind the principle of the detail of a facilities building has been established. Only those revisions to that have also been accepted by this council. Right. But again, the concerns that you express are perfectly valid planning concerns in terms of justifying it, but it would not be on the principle of being in the open countryside.
In layman's terms, it's a step too far from the original proposal. I don't. That would be my feeling, and I feel that it is just pushing against building. The resistance we have to building these sorts of enormous buildings in the countryside. So, if I can think of the right planning
I think the officers have got the meaning of the proposal. I've got Councillor Randall next.
Yeah, well, it was a proposal.
Oh yes, so we need a seconder.
Well, I second, certainly. If the proposal was against massive, I believe it's on the...
Yeah. Okay, so Councillor Robinson is second there. The next person to speak is Councillor Randall, followed by Councillor Fletcher.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Councillor Frenchman. It's huge. It just looks huge. I don't know what it's going to look like. Where it's going to be located, and and it says that the facilities building to include members' lounge. Who are the members? Are these people that are on boats, or and if they're passing, how do you become a member? I don't understand that bit. And a meeting room, meeting for who? Meeting for boat people using the canal. I don't fully understand what the proposal is for, and. I would assume if you would have something like that, it would be somewhere just to pass the lunch and get a drink.
You wish to say something? Officer, no?
Other than to say, and I think the agent has said it clearly, going back, the facilities building was approved at a fee. Clearly the operation of the development is informing this application in terms of what facilities the operators deem necessary to provide facilities within the site. But again, in terms of the design considerations and concerns that members have expressed, we're not talking these seem to be the main issues that members have, rather than why do they need technical functions, etc. So it's a case of I think you'd be stretching it to start questioning why the applicant needs those particular facilities, functions, unless you had evidence to demonstrate.
Well, that's not a planning consideration, what they want to do with it, is it?
Right, I have speakers for, well, there's four at the moment, Patchett, Barrett, Eden and Charter. So Councillor Patchett first.
Yeah, I mean, when I first looked at this, I thought, well, you know, it's getting a bit big. If you go to somewhere like Braunston Marina, there's lots of big buildings around the canal there. And a lot of canals where there's a hub of marinas, there are big buildings. I'm sort of undecided at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at policy BN5, the West Northamptonshire Joint Course Strategy, which deals with conservation areas and also significant areas. And I would say I felt that the size of this and the way it's going to impose on you would contravene BN5 quite clearly, in my opinion.
Thank you. Councillor Eden.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, mine was more of a question than anything else. At the bottom of page 125, it says, while the marine is in open countryside, there's an established grouping of unrelated canal side resident properties close by to north and east. How close are these? Will they sort of go with this, or are they too far away?
Just to be clear, they have nothing to do with the application
to do with
site. This range of sort of can be described as a series of parcels of land that have various collections of buildings, caravans that have been established for a very long period of time, and they've got no planning history, so sort of hazard a guess that they are established by reason of the length of time they've been there. Reference has been made to sort of caravans and stuff in there. That's been the subject of ongoing enforcement investigations. What's has happened is that the land has been sold into various parcels, and those people who bought those parcels have put various structures on those, some of which require permission, some of which are simply chattel and may not require permission. What I can advise members that the enforcement team have regularly checked those sites by the breaches of planning control, and will continue to do so.
Thank you.
Can I?
Yes, carry on, Councillor.
I see in 2010 they actually did put in an application which was bigger than the original one, and we approved that, but it was never taken up and now it's out of time. So they have actually put an application in for something bigger than they did to start with. This is still bigger, but they do seem to be putting everything into one building rather than like Broadston putting things along the canal. This is all in one building. I'm not sure whether that would be better or not.
Through you, Chair, members who attended the planning training site visits last September will recall the visitors.
Oh, is that what?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we were on the return, you know.
I remember.
Yeah, did I miss that one?
No, it wasn't a train.
On the trip round.
Yeah, on the minibus.
On the minibus.
It was a training.
Oh, there was one I didn't go on. Yes.
That was it.
We visited the Leonard's Way.
Yeah.
The owner challenged us, what were we doing there?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We had a little dog, not so friendly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Charter next.
Thank you, Chair. I simply wanted to provide a bit of background information that may be helpful to Councillor Randall. There is a yacht off the marina which has over 200 boats in it. They are owned by recreational boat users who come up at the weekend and go up and down the canal and then put them back in the marina and go home again. And while they're there, they have a communal meeting facility, which is actually the local community, which I'm a part, has attempted to include within the village, although it's obviously not a residential development within the confines of the village. But we went there carol singing and things of that nature. So that is why they would have such a facility, because there'll be a lot of people there at weekends.
Thank you, Councillor Charter. Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I find myself agreeing with Councillor Patchett and on Knockhill. However, Grand Union Canal ends up in London. If you travel along it, there are many, many, many three-storey buildings. In London, we used to call them loopholes with cranes, where the flap would open down, the barges would have the little crane and the barges would unload. I have to be guided by the now Canal and River Trust, who are instrumental in complaining or putting in applications that they don't see fit up and down the length of the canal. And I'm guided by the fact within the report that the Canal and River Trust have no objection subject to the detailing of the materials used. And I think that has got to be a crucial point, the materials to be used. They don't need to stand out in that form like an unused post office. They need to be in sympathy and in keeping with the character of the local countryside. Apart from that, I have no objections to it.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Right. Well, if that's all your comments, there is a proposal the application be refused, which has been seconded for given reasons, basically because of massive size and if in countryside. Those in agreement with that proposal, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those against?
1, 2, 3, 4.
7-4. The application is refused for the given reason. Right, you may be asking why this one's on the agenda. It's because it's one of ours, okay? It's the Daventry District Council.
No, it's not yours, it's a DDC area.
So it's 0307.
Thanks, Chairman. The safety location plan cites the former bowling. Just to the southwest of the Justice Car Park in the area of the left. This is an application for demolition for relevant structure in the conservation area. This is a procedural requirement. We're not suggesting the building makes any positive contribution to the setting of appearance of the conservation area, and its removal it could be regarded as having an enhancing effect, and accordingly recommend the application be approved.
Thank you. Who's the local member?
Yeah, say after the local member. I'm waiting.
It is bound to be you.
Yeah, I'd have very big problems refusing this because when we had a meeting about 2.5 years ago with members and we were asked where would we put the new play area in the recreation ground, what they've got here is basically what I said. But I said to keep the hedge along the side of the car park at 5 foot, and I think in here they've made it 1.6 metres. So it is, apart from that, it's the same as what I said. They didn't put the children's play area there, but this is what I wanted them to do.
You should be a planning council.
I think 1.6 metres is about 5 foot.
Yes, it is. 5, 6, 7.
Are you making a proposal?
I propose that we approve it. And can I say, in that case, if we are starting to do things in the rec and improve it, I would like to think that something else will follow on and bring our rec back to the sort of conditions that it used to be when Mr. Hector MacDonald used to be the greenkeeper up there and caretaker, because our recreation doesn't need
I'm sure the applicants are
TCP. That's not right.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a second? Councillor Randall, you second it and you want to speak?
I do, yeah, very happy to accept that application. I mean, since it's no longer become a bowl screen, it's just become a huge eyesore, actually. And it will open up the rec. it's quite nice actually having all that hedgerow down, and it's a nice flat area. A lot of the rec is down on a slope. I have had a few people say to me, what is it going to become? And I said, I feel it's just going to be a grass area. I've had a few requests for different things to be there. French bowl seems to be very popular at the moment, and they have asked, being as it was a bowl, that it was previously a bowling area, and the drainage is good. French bowls would be very cheap to put there. They wanted to know how they would get that as a consideration, something very cheap, just to have, just have a bit of extra use on that ground.
I think those comments can be fed back to my colleagues in the business team, because we'll be, I'm sure,
but yes, I'd be very happy for that to be knocked down, and it will greatly improve the area.
France is getting everywhere at the moment.
Sorry.
Sorry.
The trouble is a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
Something else.
Yes. Councillor Frencher.
With my tongue slightly in my cheek at this particular stage, would that not make a decent clubhouse and a football pitch for the football club?
No.
There's plenty of room.
It's not appropriate.
Why?
It's in the well, if you saw the site, it would not be a football site.
It's nowhere near enough.
The bowls isn't, but the rest of the grass is.
Yeah, French bowls. They can play on top. Does anybody else wish to speak? Okay, we have a proposal that the application be approved, and it's been seconded. All those in agreement, please show. Unanimous. You can tell some people are feeling hungry.
Is there one more? Oh, it's not you. It's Smith. Sorry.
The next application's in Crick, yet again. 381. It's the Robinson Road show. And of course,
Apologise, the ordnance survey plan you have in question should actually be updated. The site lies on the eastern side of Grayson Lane. For those who know Crick, the land beyond to the east of the application site, which is outlined there, is currently under construction for residential development, and to the north for residential development for dwellings. The property is quite a large property. It has been extended recently, subject to another planning application, sitting with a very large garden plot. The application proposes access to the north side to access a new dwelling. Whilst technically outside the defined limits in the development plan, shown for the Crick inset, certainly circumstances have changed, namely in surroundings, such as this is a backland piece of development surrounded on all sides by residential. In our view, the proposal works well in respect of distance to adjoining properties, either under construction or existing. Access is acceptable. Despite the concerns of the Highway Authority, in the words of an inspector having visited Crick on another site, Grayson Lane is not Piccadilly Circus, and we don't consider that it's reasonable to or proportionate to accede to all of the requests of the Highway Authority. That said, we have proposed conditions to assume lake representations to deal with the issue of access into and out of the site and turning facilities within the site. Accordingly, recommend the application be approved, Chair.
Thank you, Aaron. No speakers, so straight to our usual councillor. Councillor Option, followed by Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I went around this morning and had a look at it. And basically it's in the back of somebody's garden. The parish council objected on the grounds it's too tall, and I found that very difficult to visualise because Road Lane is quite low down compared with the houses around on that side of it at any rate. They also object on as has just been mentioned, parking issues on that area, but I think that's been taken care of. And quite frankly, this is just a little tiny development, and all around it is massive. Makes no real difference in the grand scheme of things. And that being the case, I'm going to suggest that we actually approve this one.
Thank you very much. Do you have a seconder before we get to our second speaker? You've lost out, Councillor Bull, this time. Councillor behind you.
Thank you, Chairman. 4 down, 1 to go. God, it's hard to do it. I really don't. But I have to say I disagree with my councillor, and I support views of the current council, in particular in relation to the height of the building. I do think it's too tall. I think the massing is too great. It's what would be called, or was called in the past, background development, and that actually makes a big difference to how it's perceived in the locality. One that you've heard St Margaret's View referred to earlier this evening. Drayson Lane, which is very narrow and has very narrow pavement, and you will see the highways, what the highways are going to say about the access. Drayson Lane will be the main route to children walking to school from St Margaret's View. They will come up there, and on this bend, down a steep slope from this house, will come cars, which could be in conflict with the children. I do think we have to think very carefully about that aspect of it. That having been said, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Right, our seconder. Would you like to speak on it, Councillor Chaplin?
No, Chair.
Okay. That's short and sharp. No other councillor wishes to speak. We have a proposal that we accept officers' advice. All those in agreement, please show. Right, 9-4. Those against? 1, 2. The application is approved. Thank you, Mr. Weed. Right, the application that was off, which is now back on because it is a member of this committee, is 0498, which is in Weed Tech. We know where he lives now.
So it's quite a substantial three-storey property at West Street within the confines of the village. Previous application has been approved for extensions to the property. You see the screen next to it. Yeah, this drawing shows a lapse provision. The shaded grey area is the extent of it. The alterations and extensions approved under the previous application. On the left-hand side shows what's the subject of this current application. It's all single-storey, provide additional ancillary accommodation to the property. There's no adverse impact on the street scene, no adverse impact on the amenities of neighbouring properties. Accordingly, we recommend the application be approved, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Irving-Swift, are you proposing?
I have proposed we go with, okay, sorry.
That's the fast track version. Councillor Frenchman, I'll gather your second.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But should we declare an interest that we know the applicant?
No. His car's not on the driveway. Right, all those in agreement with that proposition, please show. It's only here for that reason. That's unanimous. Thank you. Can you call it waving back in, please?
Gentlemen, it was refused.
It's refused.
Could I have a little tiny bit of urgent business after we've done this report, please? May take a couple of moments.
Yeah, okay, we'll listen to it afterwards. Yes, so don't go away then. Right, this is the report for
Local requirements. Yeah. Basically we have a list of local requirements which we have to publish. Initially it started off as quite a helpful thing to do really, good practice to tell people what they needed to submit before they submitted their application, so that we can bounce it back and say, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, you haven't done the other. There's basically a national list which is set by the government on the back of the 1 Act forms. Every council has to use the 1 Act forms now. But if you want to keep up your local requirements, they basically brought in a proviso into the last government where you have to review it every 2 years, or if it's out of date and you couldn't be held to it. So they've had to review it once before, and it actually expires in September. You have to allow 6 weeks for the consultation period, so in order to make the September committee deadline to feed back to you the responses that we've had in terms of consultation, we need to agree to go out to consultation, and the idea would be to go out on Friday if you agree the advice, and to report back the findings and all the responses that we've had and what we suggest we might do about it, which might actually be nothing to be done in September. So that's really all it is, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments from there?
No.
Councillor Frenchman,
I have 2 quick comments to make. One is that can we ensure that any media files that are put on the website are suitably named and not have silly numbers that don't mean anything? So you have to go through every media file before you find the one that you want. And secondly, on page 160 on the national list, where it says the location plan, can we actually amend that to a suitable location plan? Because sometimes it only shows the immediate area and you can't see the context of where it is in the village. So I think a sort of larger scale location plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Randall.
No, just 2 things actually. Consultations going into August when it's summer holidays, not a good time for consultations. That's often noted at parish councils and things, same as when they run them in December across Christmas as well. And the other one, I'll admit that I haven't read this. Right. Is there a piece in there about what our obligation is to notify neighbours or?
That's not what it's about.
No, right, okay. No, that's fine.
That's in the community involvement.
Okay, thank you.
That's fair enough for Councillor.
I think we stuck with the consultation period because we had they were agreed in September. We've got to do the consultation in a timely fashion before the next time. So
let's be brutally honest. What actually happened was, as I say, the new requirement to review it every 2 years was brought in under the last government, and we dropped the ball because we actually forgot. So we were in such a rush last time, we did it at the wrong time of the year, and there was a period where in theory somebody could have turned around to us and said, you have graded this or looked at this for 2 years, so we're ignoring it, we don't have to submit any of these documents. So we rushed it through and we got it done in September when it was adopted. But to obviously maintain that continuity, we've got to do it again to the same timetable. That's the problem.
I mean, we could perhaps start the process earlier next time.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years is what the government says. As long as it's top, you'd start it again in 18 months' time.
Yeah. No, they know our parish councils only meet at certain times.
I think basically we just forgot really because it was a new requirement. The first time round, we just forgot. Somebody said,
until Mary reminded us.
oh yeah, we haven't reviewed it, haven't we? And it's supposed to be done every 2 years.
Right, thank you.
I need a proposer that we accept the resolution. Thank you. And secondly, Councillor Paul, all those in agreement should be unanimous. 2 of you forgot to put your hands up.
Sorry.
Lovely. Unanimous. Thank you. Right, your quick urgent bit of business is what?
This is to do with SUE development. Apparently Persimmon Homes are doing a consultation for 60 houses in the NN SUE, which is in Harleston, the new one in Harleston. Yeah, and they're carrying it out in Duston because they believe that the area falls under Borough Council and that there is talk of change of the boundary to include this land in the borough. Firstly, I'd like to ask if that's true, and I guess it isn't.
No.
Secondly, how do we prevent a developer carrying out a consultation in the wrong place?
I guess when he makes his application, we send it back and say we've got compliance and requirements to carry out consultation in Daventry district.
But of course it is.
But it might just be fields that maybe there. I was going to say, there might just be fields.
It is field. It's opposite
So
Alston
that's probably why they're saying, a bit like Clifton Fields, affecting all the residents in Northampton.
Yeah.
That's probably what they're doing.
But they could have done it at Alston Hall, Parish Hall, rather than the Dustin.
Or we should, maybe consider several places.
Well, I'm going to try and talk to them about it, but I just thought I'd say that there's rumours circulating about changing boundaries.
They've not got this far.
I said I was approached by the parish council, and I said that would be highly unlikely, but they're a
You'd be
bit.
the first to know.
Well, sorry, we just had that conversation in the context to which I quipped. Well, everybody said that about Lupton Fields, and 25 years later, it's still in Daventry district. And then somebody else said, that's because they haven't built the houses on it yet. So I don't know. Maybe had the houses been built 25 years ago, when the original allocation was, maybe last time they reviewed the boundaries, if the houses were there, they would have taken it into the borough. I don't know.
Wait till the borough adopts them.
Okay, that can.
Thank you, Chair.